Hello, students. Today I'm going to teach you the chapter The Enemy, written by Pearl S. Buck. Here's a simplified version of the story. Dr. Sidao was a famous Japanese surgeon and scientist. His house was on a spot of the Japanese coast where, as a little boy, he had often played. It was sent upon rocks. It was well above a narrow beach that was outlined with bent pines. There was some little islands near the Japanese coast. Sadao's father often took him to those islands. There he would point toward the island and say, "Those islands yonder, they are stepping stone of the future of Japan. It depends on us what we make of our future." Sadao's education was the chief concern of his father. He never jogged or played with him. He worried about his education only. When Sadao was 22, he was sent to America to learn all he could of surgery and medicine. There he lived at the house of an American professor. A few other foreign students also lived there. The rooms here were very small and the food was also not good. Moreover, the professor's wife was very valuable. But Sadao continued to live there because there he met a Japanese girl named Hana, whom he wanted to love if it were at all possible. The two fell in love but did not marry. Sadao's father would never have accepted her unless she had been pure in her race. After finishing their study, they came back to Japan. When Sadao's father saw Hana, he at once agreed to their marriage. The marriage was arranged in the old Japanese way. Sadao and Hana lived a perfectly life. Now they had two children, but their love for each other was as warm as ever. Sadao often wondered whom he would have married if he had not met Hana. One night, when Sadao came home, his wife opened the door. It was the moment that both of them saw something black come out of the mists. It was a man. He was flung up out of the ocean. He staggered a few steps and then fell down on his hands and knees. He crawled a little, then fell on his face and lay by there. Both Sadaus and Hana went running quickly to where the man lay. He lay motionless, with his face in the sand. "The man is wounded," exclaimed Sadao. The sand on one side of him had already a stain of blood soaking through. He had an old cap on his head and his wet clothes were in rags. Sadao turned the man's head. They saw his face. "A white man," Hana whispered. Yes, it was a white man. The wet cap fell away and there was his wet yellow hair. Upon his young and tousled face was a rough yellow beard. He was unconscious and knew nothing what they did for him. Now Sadao remembered the wound. With his expert finger, he began to search for it. On the right side of his lower back, there was a gun wound that had reopened. Sometime, not many days ago, the man had been shot and had not been tended. Sadao packed the wound with the sea moss and strew the beach. The man moaned with pain, but he did not awaken. The best thing that we could do would be to put him back into the sea, Hannah said. If we sheltered a white man in our house, we should be arrested. And if we turned him over as a prisoner, he would certainly die, Sadhu said. What is he? Hannah whispered. There is something about him that looks American, Sadhu said. He took up the battered cap. It bore the word US Navy. He's a sailor from an American warship, said Sadhu. The man was a prisoner of war. He had escaped, Hannah said softly, and this is why he is wounded. The strange thing is, said Sadhu, that if the man were whole, I could turn him over to the police without difficulty. I care nothing for him. He is my enemy. All Americans are my enemies. But since he is wounded, what should I do with him? You cannot throw him back into the sea, Hannah said. Then there is only one thing to do. We must carry him into the house. But the servant, Sadhu inquired. We must simply tell them that we intend to give him to the police. You must think of the children and your position. It would endanger all of us if we did not give this man over as a prisoner of war. Sadhu said, It's okay, I would not think of doing anything else. They both agreed. And they carried the man into the house. He's so dirty, said Hannah. Yes, he had better be washed. If you will fetch hot water, I'll wash him. I cannot bear for you to touch him, she said. We shall have to tell the servants he's here. I'll tell Yumi now. She can leave the children for a few moments and she can wash him. Sadhu considered a moment. Let it be so, he agreed. You tell Yumi and I will tell the others. But when the servants came to know what their master was doing, they bluntly refused to do anything about it. Yumi said she was not going to wash a white man. Now Hannah herself started washing the white man. She kept on washing him until his upper body was quite clean. In the meantime, Sadhu came in with his surgeon emergencies bag. You have decided to operate? She cried. Yes, he said. He will die unless he is operated on. Help me to turn him, he commanded her. She obeyed him without a word and he began to wash the man's backs carefully. While Sadhu performed the operation, Hannah helped him giving the medicine. While she was looking at the man's face, she observed deep red scars on his neck, just under the ear. It showed that the man had been tortured badly. Hana was reminded of the Japanese general Takima, who at home used to beat his wife. If a man like that could be so cruel to a woman in his power, would be not so cruel to a prisoner of war? Sadhu felt the tip of the instrument strike against something hard. It was dangerously near the kidney. Now he started probing with his finger. He was familiar with every atom of the human body. Then quickly he made a clean and precise incision, and the bullet was out. The man was still unconscious. When the young man woke, he looked very weak and terrified. What are you doing to do with me? He muttered. I don't know myself what I shall do with you, said Sadhu. I ought to give you to the police. You are a prisoner of war. When the young man tried to speak, Sadhu said, Don't tell me anything. Don't even tell me your name unless I ask it. The young man closed his eyes. Outside, Hana was waiting for Sadao. She said, the servants feel that they cannot stay if we hide this man here anymore. They say that we have forgotten to think of our country first. They think that we are Americans. Oh, it's not true, said Sadao. Americans are our enemies, but I have been trained not to let a man die if I can help it. I have been trained not to let a man die if I can help it. The servants can't understand that, said Hana. Sadao continued to examine the young man wound carefully every day. The last stitches had been pulled out. It seemed that young man would be nearly all right in a fortnight. On the seventh day, after that, two things happened. Hannah found in the morning that none of his servants had done their job. When they came before her, she paid them off and thanked them for all they had done for her. In the afternoon, the second thing happened. A messenger came to their house in official uniform. Hannah was too frightened to say a word. She thought that they had come to arrest her husband. But the man walked up to Sadao and said, you are to come to the palace. The old general is in pain again. Sadao had become famous not only as a surgeon but also as a scientist. Now, when Sadao went to attend on the old general, he related to him the whole story of the American soldier. He said, I care nothing for the man, Excellency, but having operated on him with such success, yes, the general said, it only makes me feel you more indispensable to me. You cannot be arrested. Suppose you were condemned to death and the next day I had to have my operation. There are other surgeons, Excellency, Sadao suggested. None I trust. The general replied. The best one have been trained by Germans and would consider the operation successful even if I died. The old general himself suggested a way to get rid of the American soldier. He said that he had to his he had his own private assistant. They were very capable and made no noise. They could even have the body removed. This perhaps would be the best, Excellency, said Sadao, thinking of Hana. Sadao passed 3 nights in great strain, but every morning he would find that nothing had happened. Nobody came to kill that American soldier. He would find that American quite hale and hairy. He could not go through another night in such strain, so he thought of his own way to get rid of the man. You are well now, said Sadao to the American. I think if I put my boat on the shore tonight with food and extra clothing in it, you might be able to go to the little island not far from the coast. I realize you are saving my life again, he told Sadao. Not at all, Sadao said. What I am doing to just help my patient, nothing else. You are still my enemy. He gave the man his little flashlight and said, "If your food runs out before you catch a bot, signal me two flashes." At the same instant, the sun drops over the horizon. Do not signal in darkness, for it will be seen. The young American, without a word, shook Sadhu's hand warmly and laughed. The old general had been operated a week before. Sadhu had been called to perform an emergency operation in the night. After a week, Sadhu felt the general was well enough to be spoken about the prisoner. "Yes, Excellency, the man escaped," Sadhu said. "That prisoner?" said the old man with some energy. "Did I not promise you that I would kill him for you?" "You did, Excellency," Sadhu said. "But you see," said the old man, "I was suffering a good deal. The truth is, I thought of nothing but myself. In short, I forgot my promise to you." Now everything was quite okay. And the story ends that Dr. Siddhau, who performed his duty very well, and really he was such a nice doctor and a good Japanese. So guys, you have to study this lesson, read it again and again, and God bless you.